Hello, Star Citizen fans. It's Galoyeth here. Want to take the time out of my day to talk about DSR and how we can use it to our advantage, especially in an environment that is, let's we say, CPU bottlenecked. Now, I'm using currently 3440 by 1440 monitor with two Titan X's on a 5930K. So this thing usually can pretty much power through anything, 60 frames per second, pretty much in every single game. At stock this resolution. Now, if you guys can see in the upper left hand side, I've got my MSI Afterburner on-screen display going, and you can see my CPU usage and my D3, D11. That is my FPS. Now, one thing I want to talk about is, right, we're only getting 35 frames per second here, and that's because you'll see that 100% utilization on CPU thread 3. Now, we can say, oh, that sucks, it's unoptimized. And unfortunately it is, right? Multi-threaded capabilities in this game are not very good. You're actually better off with hyper-threading off. That's why one of those reasons why, I don't know if people remember Kevin Flynn's fix, kind of, put things on, 1, 2, 3 different threads instead of a bunch of them, because it just was not being handled very well. It was causing crashing. So, you gotta, play with the hand you're dealt. And one of the ways we can take advantage of this, bad situation right now in the PU is by using DSR. And in some of the videos I linked, for example, Board Gamer's got a good way of how to enabling it. DSR or VSR, I should say, if you're AMD. But anyways, what you do is you're going to increase the resolution, and what we want to do is we want to almost give ourselves a GPU bottleneck. And it really depends, right? We're at 37 frames per second. This is going to can get my GPU utilization is bouncing between 29 and 50% on each GPU. So hopefully this works. I might have to restart the video if it crashes or whatnot, changing the resolution, but let's give it a try. Alright, we're going to go for the big one. This is about 20 million pixels here, guys. And it's probably going to chug. Wow, look at that. So I lost about 10 FPS. If you guys can see now, I am at 87% CPU utilization on CPU thread 3. We are at a GPU bottleneck. To put this into perspective, my stock monitor is 1340 by 1440. That is about 5 million pixels. We're running at about 20 million pixels here. So about 15 million more pixels, and I only lost 10 FPS. Now a person can say, well, that's because you're fucking riding two Titans. Yes, but it also goes to show that we have a severe CPU bottleneck, like everyone knows. But you know what? I'm going to dial it down, and we're going to get a better picture. We might even get smoother gameplay, even less stuttering, because that CPU's got a little bit more room. So I could probably fly around, and I'm probably just going to always get 25 FPS. I'm not going to see huge drops. I'm not going to do that quite yet because I want to keep kind of where our frame is, and I'm going to dial it down because we want to go after the sweet spot. What is the sweet spot where I don't lose FPS, but I'm getting the most out of this PU? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop this down a little bit. I like to work my way backwards. I think it helps. So I'm going to drop it by 2. I think, well, yeah, we'll drop it by 2 and see where we go. Because we're looking at 37 frames per second. If it's below that, we need, by a bunch, we need to lower it some more yet. Alright, so we're at 30. Alright, and we are actually at a CPU bottleneck again. But not quite, right? It's not pegged at 100%. So a person could, side on this side of it, right? You kind of right on the edge, you've lost a little bit of FPS. Or we can go dial it down a little bit more, which we're going to do. So I'm going to knock it down. Remember, 440 by 1440 was my max, and I am dropping it down one notch. And you're going to have to play with this and see what works for you. I wonder if I cranked it back up by accident. Well, we're at about 28. Let's dial it again. Just hope we're not getting that lovely bug where you mess with the resolution and you don't see any performance impact. Alright. So 26. So that's really interesting here. Maybe another ship loaded on the grid. Again, when you have a CPU bottleneck, you're limited on FPS. So I mean, technically, with all intents and purposes, I'm pretty much better off, almost at one of the higher settings. So I'm dropping it. Maybe that's going to add some 28. Let's drop it some more. Drop it one more. All right, so we're dealing with an interesting phenomenon here. It's called we got more people on the grid. We're using more CPU overhead. You know, I'm going to actually go back to my native resolution and see if I see a change, because we're seeing something interesting here. Again, we're just being so CPU bottlenecked. So yeah, I am now, I believe, at my native resolution. Yes, I'm at the native resolution. I'm at 30 frames per second, a little bit under, just because the game is insanely CPU bottlenecked. So what we're gonna do, again, you're gonna have to figure this out by being in the PU, seeing what you want. But I'm gonna dial it back up to the second best highest setting, because there's no point in if I'm gonna play at 29 frames per second. Wow, look at that, guys. Look at that. 30 FPS. So what's this tell you? It tells you that your bottleneck is so bad that you can play at a much higher resolution, and you're gonna get pretty much the similar performance. Why not? I mean, this is like our anti-aliasing, everything, not just edges. So let's just take a look at this. Let's think about this for a second. I am playing at 59, 58. Let's see what that is, right? That's 59, 58 times 2494. So we're talking almost 10 million more pixels. Let's think about that again here. That's almost 3 times more of a higher resolution than my stock standard resolution, and I am getting the exact same FPS. I mean, I'm up to 36 here now. That is how bad this CPU bottleneck is, and that's the purpose of this video, is to say, hey, you know what? We're dealt this hand. Let's make the best of it. If we're gonna play at 30, FPS, let's crank this up, and let's have some fun with it, and at least have some beautiful picture quality. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of a go, right? Let's give it a go, right? I got a little bit of stuttering there. Wow, look at that VRAM. That's 8 gigs of VRAM. Wow, this is insane. Again, you know what? I might actually drop it down again, because I'm getting pretty high there on the GPU utilization. But again, guys, see what works, what's smooth. I've got DSR sharpening at 0. if you use it, you know, you could probably smoothen it out a little bit if you went to like the stock 33 or somewhere between 15 and 30. Might get a little bit more smoother. I may try that as well. But again, you know what? Use what you got, right? All right. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.